The Catholic Jesus is not Christ. The Jesus Christ presented by the Catholic Church is not Christ the Son of God, of whom we read in the Gospels. These two are of two completely different personalities. The persona and moral demeanor of Jesus of the Catholic Church was created by the activities and edicts of the popes. One early pope declared that a member of the church could murder anyone and still gain entrance into heaven as long as he first paid to the church an agreed sum of money. Christ, the Son of the Father, would never ever even consider, much more condone, such dastardly proposition. This early edict was the first truly egregious stroke of the brush, showing the moral character of the Jesus of the Catholic Church, as well as their gluttony for money. The real Christ showed no desire for money, and indeed trivialized it. The next stroke of the brush was again from an early pope who declared that members could purchase indulgence. In other words, buy their way into heaven. This the real Christ would never agree to, after teaching by word and example how to gain and maintain Mount Zion, the kingdom of the heavens. Another pope banned the circulation and use of the Bible. Anyone found in possession of a Bible was either murdered or severely punished. As a result, the Catholic Church was able to interpret as it pleased verses in direct conflict with its evil doctrines. Thereby also the message of the real Christ was hidden from the most persons across the then world for hundreds of years. In the 6th century, Muhammad, who was a fervent follower of the true Christ, made his pilgrimage to Rome, a trip that was recommended to all Catholics. But on arrival at the Basilica, the same basilica that stands in Rome today, he was appalled to see all forms of sexual depravity and debauchery taking place before his eyes. He and his entire entourage turned immediately and at the border stopped to dust off the dirt of that land from their sandals, never to return. He went straight to Medina and started the Muslim religion. He saw nothing representative of the true Christ in Rome. Now, when medicine was first discovered, the Catholic Church saw that this would become an excellent source of monetary gain. So the then Pope declared that all herbalists, women who studied bush and boiled bush to cure various ailments, were witches and must be burnt at the stake. Approximately 500,000 women went through the torturous and excruciating death of being burnt alive. The real Christ would never agree to this atrocity, nor would he be interested in the money. Perhaps most relevant in the destruction of the intent and moral and ethical values of the real Christ was the reign of Pope Nicholas, who in 1455 pronounced slavery on the world, making it legal for ones to go out and capture, for purposes of slavery, anyone of a poorer and more humble culture. Once again, the name of the real Christ was maligned, for he would never agree to this. Meanwhile, hardly did anyone realize the Pope's Jesus as being wicked. In order to describe the real nature of Romans, we should mention the persecution brought by Rome on the early Christians before the time of the popes. This began around 60 AD and brought great suffering on the true followers of Christ. Those who could not escape to other lands had to hide underground in the catacombs. This persecution showed the truly brutish nature of Romans, who callously cheered and jeered as hungry lions and tigers were unleashed upon even the most beautiful princesses of Israel after stripping them naked before the huge crowd. These persecutions continued for approximately 200 years until Emperor Gallienus allowed for religious freedom. But this was merely for a limited time, because Emperor Diocletian, perhaps the most wicked of all emperors, launched a devastating attack on the real followers of Christ in 303 AD. Throughout this entire time, real Christians multiplied exponentially, because wherever they went, they were loved by those coming in contact with their kindness, their peaceful nature, their selflessness, and love. This exponential increase caused Emperor Constantine to in effect declare, since we cannot conquer or destroy them, we shall have to join them. But Constantine meant no effort to become Christ-like, peaceful, loving, and sharing. He only meant to join by adopting the name Christian for the Roman Empire. So the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD could be said to be the official beginning of the rule of popery and false Jesus. It had nothing to do with real Christianity or the real following of Christ. Just as before, after the Pope Nicholas, evil atrocities of popes continued. The debauchery, the homosexuality, the murders, and the conquering of other peoples in order to expand the wealth of the Pope's evil church. Also worthy of mention is the blessing of Mussolini in his attempt to conquer Haile Selassie I in Ethiopia by Pope Pius XII. Mussolini presumptuously thought that by conquering the king of Ethiopia, he could somehow rule the world as king of all kings. Benito was later truly humbled for this presumptuousness. The evils of the Antichrist, Catholic Church, would need an encyclopedic set of volumes to record it all. Mention, however, must be made of the turn of the century indictment of thousands of Catholic priests for sexual molestation of youngsters should be enough to cap the evilous nature of the Pope's Jesus and turn Christians to the real Christ and his true message. Now, in a recent ceremony at the Vatican, and most Christians will not believe this, 4 years ago, and presented on YouTube under the title Pope Francis Declares Himself the Antichrist and Lucifer the Father of, Pope Francis brings a solemn incantation to Lucifer as the father of Jesus. You are encouraged to see it for yourselves. Advice for the present future. 1. Come out of Lucifer worship by extricating yourselves from the Catholicism before it is too late. 2. Even if you can't divulge yourself of the sweet name of Jesus because you find it difficult to say Yeshua or Yehoshua, then you must at least conceive and concentrate on the real Christ as you pray. Finally, watch out. It is not yet 2,000 years since the Christ removed his physical presence from the earth, but it is almost 2,000, and Lucifer is already raising his head.